In Japan and Europe in 1986, Slap Fight was released by Toaplan. But in the United States it was called Alcon for some reason. I guess Slap Fight was a euphemism for something? Who knows? Anyway, yeah, get your minds out the gutter. This game takes its inspiration from Xevious, and a little bit from Gradius as well with its powered-up system. The game takes place in an Earth-style environment with metallic land-based enemies. Some are mobile and some are not. Certain enemies leave powered-up stars upon destruction. Collect these stars to turn on and upgrade on the menu, a bit like Gradius. In fact, not a bit like Gradius, exactly like Gradius. Collect enough stars to get to the powered-up you actually want and hit the powered-up button. Unlike many shoot-em-ups of the time, or even many modern shoot-em-ups, this game is basically just one complete long run. There are no actual levels as such, it just goes on and on and on. One interesting point about the game regarding powered-ups is the fact you can add wing accessories to the ship. These add-ons actually bolt onto the side of your ship and increase your firepower. Quite a nice idea instead of collecting just standard powered-up weapon pods. These days Slap Fight does look a little bit dated, but don't worry because there is one port out there that brings it into a bit more of the modern era. It's nice to see a home conversion on an 8-bit computer that really tries to recreate the arcade experience. This Commodore 64 port looks really good considering the hardware it's running on. It also sounds fantastic, allowing for sound effects and music at the same time. Sure, the music loses a channel every time a sound effect plays, but that's okay. Consoles have been doing that for years until the Saturn and PlayStation age. As we all know, nice graphics and audio means nothing when the gameplay is last. Thankfully, the C64 port of Slap Fight plays great. It's no arcade perfect experience due to the lower screen resolution resulting in slightly redesigned stages. However, what is here is done very well. You would think that with the very weedy looking graphics, almost impossible to see small projectiles, and low shot speed would make this port of Slap Fight incredibly difficult. In reality, it's far easier than many of the other ports, due to the lack of any action on screen at times. To the game's defense, it's not as bad as the ZX Spectrum port, plus it does keep the speed up most of the time, and it does run in colour, unlike many other CPC ports. If you ever wanted to play a shooter where the enemy projectiles are almost invisible, then this is the game for you. Yes, that's right. The not so pretty monochrome graphics make distinguishing or even seeing the enemy projectiles an almost impossible task. If that's not enough to make this port unplayable, then you'll also have to deal with the inconsistent speed at which this game runs at. But wait, there's even more! The actual hitbox around your ship is massive, meaning that you can be hit by an enemy projectile even though it's clearly nowhere near you. The ST port starts off well, with a fantastic remake of the arcade soundtrack, but is let down by only allowing music or sound effects separately. The C64 could handle both, why can't the ST? Never mind, even if the game did feature simultaneous music and sound effects, it would still fail. The main reason is because of the unfair speed at which the projectiles fly. Some move as they should while others are slower. Then you have the ones that just blast straight at you, giving no warning or chance to avoid them. It's because of this that the Atari ST version of Slap Fight is horrible to play. Oh, and the scrolling sucks too. Far too jerky for the shooter. With over 100 volumes of battle reports made, it's the first time we've ever looked at anything on the Thomson MO5. This obscure French computer had many games released for it. Games quite often look like a mix between the MSX, ZX Spectrum and CPC. This version of Slap Fight, while looking pretty basic, is actually quite playable. It's faster than the Amstrad CPC and easier on the eyes than the ZX Spectrum, although the enemy projectiles are still tricky to see at times. But most of all, it's obscure, making it quite an interesting port. There's actually two versions of Slap Fight for the Mega Drive on the same cartridge. First, we'll take a look at the standard arcade port. As you can clearly see, it looks better than the arcade original in many areas. Some may even say the music is better. Talking of which, this port has two soundtracks. The basic arcade remix plus an all-new arranged soundtrack. There's also an option for speech, complete with two different settings. Either the voice can be heard once you have selected an item, or the way I like it, is to have the speech shout out every time a new power up is highlighted. This saves having to look over at the power up meter to make sure you're about to select the right item. Slap Fight MD is an all-new, completely rearranged version of the game, with some amazing new music compositions by Yuzo Koshiro. In fact, this could be considered an entirely different game, as the level layouts bear little resemblance to the arcade originals. It's an amazing addition to the game cartridge that makes the best home port even cooler than it already was. And let's take a look at all those versions of Slap Fight running side by side.